Hi, I'm Karen Foster, and welcome to Starmount Stories. And the purpose of this is we not only want to be your real estate agent, but we also want to be your source of information. And what we're doing here is talking about Starmount and the wonderful things Starmount has to offer, not just the community and the businesses that surround Starmount, but also the wonderful neighbors that we have. And today we are here with Kathy Campbell. And Kathy has been a neighbor here for how long?
We've been here 28 years.
So that's
28 years here.
And so tell us a little bit about yourself. And
Well, my husband and I moved here from Connecticut, and we relocated with what's now Syngenta crop protection. And I have a degree in biology from the University of Connecticut, like from 100 years ago, and worked for many years in the agricultural industry, 30 years actually. And then I retired and I went back to school and got my BFA in art education with this fantasy that I was going to teach art. And I've always loved art. Even when I was at UConn, I took a lot of art classes, but decided that I would keep that as a hobby as opposed to a career at that time. So now it's been sort of a fun little activity that keeps me out of trouble, and I really enjoy switching gears onto it. So I am doing a little bit of contract work still with Syngenta, so that works too. So it's a really great combination.
so you have not only your biologist, but you're also an artist.
Right.
And there's not very many people that have both sides of that brain.
And what is that? Like in that Myers-Briggs or something.
Yeah.
Some sort of weird shape, I guess, that
Yeah.
it comes out to. So yeah, but I've always, as a kid, if I could get a box of markers for my birthday, I was good to go. So that was always the case. So anyway, and yeah, you had asked about one thing that has carried through. I've always kept art going, but one thing that really has been consistent is I draw my Christmas card every year. And the interest started. Karen had asked me how I got interested in this, and when I was really little, my older brother had a graphic design friend he went to UConn, and he was drawing his Christmas cards, and it was the greatest thing that I always look forward to seeing. I don't really know. He's quite a bit older than I didn't really know him too well, but I sure envied his talent.
His talent, yeah.
Right. So I started, and since I have all the Christmas cards since what's this? And I did some block prints to begin with, but I have them all dated 1986.
So this is your very first one.
Yeah, so that was my first.
And tell us what that story is.
Well, this one actually, it's funny you should ask. I'm not sure. I think it was just something that I thought was picturesque or anything.
That's cute.
But it really, I would say 90% of Christmas cards have some sort of message from something that happened during the course of that year. We're huge Red Sox fans. And in 2004, that Santa Claus was wearing a Red Sox cap on my Christmas card. And I try to slip it in sort of subtly, and I usually get some input from my family too, like, what do you think? What do you think? And there are times when I'm ripping my hair out. And I said, okay, I'm buying them this year, and I sort of put my foot down, and then I get sort of sighs like, but Mom, and I hear from a neighbor like, what? So I've always done it.
So your first theme was just snow and houses and everything.
And then I worked into, like, this was the year that Emily was born, and we had a yellow lab. So and this is the year Kyle was born. We each had a little Christmas tree with the interests that we had on there. Dan was coaching soccer, and Emily, I guess, I don't know. This always seemed Emily was playing all sorts of sports. So and then so each year was something different. Some years I got pretty like.
And where's
fancy.
the Red Sox one?
Here. So here's mine with my little Red Sox cap on 2004. So that's.
Do you have a favorite? You've been doing this for 28 years. Do you have a favorite?
I usually really like it when I hit on something that was significant I really like the Red Sox one because that was our whole family. We were we flipped out.
Yeah.
And then there were I like the years that the kids were born, and then there were a few that I liked just artistically. They weren't necessarily actually one year we had I think three. I'm looking at my husband just back there. I think we had 3 or 4 wren families in a wren house on our back patio.
Okay.
And so that was that was really special. So I did now I'm flipping through and I'm getting kind of excited about each of them. But I did a little house wren and it was, and to us, I mean, other people who look at it like, yeah, so what? But to us, it meant something. So I definitely have other years. The Red Sox won the World Series, so but which I featured, and our dog was also featured in a lot of these. But there was one I just saw. Like this one that they won also, and there she is holding a piece about baseball. So so that's.
Well, that's great. And so you go from every year doing these Christmas cards. What do you have a theme this year?
Oh man, I haven't even thought. I hadn't started on Thanksgiving yet. I haven't even thought about it.
It'll be fun.
So okay, right. I'll come up with something.
And then once a week, is that right? You have preschool?
Well, yeah, I started teaching a preschool art class with some friends at Christ United Methodist Church, and then of course once the pandemic hit, there was a group of families in town. A couple of them I taught at preschool, and they wondered if I would supplement their at-home learning with once a week art lesson, and so I have 8 students that come every Wednesday. We call it Art in the Driveway, obviously.
The weather is in the driveway, but not
weather
today.
didn't support that. And they range in age from 5 to I think 12, and it's quite a challenge because there's certainly different levels of interest and abilities. I mean, my preschoolers couldn't use scissors, but these kids are like, the older ones are really capable, but they help each other, and I think that they really like the time together. I think that that's the key. So so anyway, and they're great. They're eager, and they're just really a lot of fun. So they stay for an hour and head out. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And so today's project you were showing us earlier.
Yeah, we're doing today. I always with the art programs, I always introduce them. I start with introducing them to an artist, and it could be. I mean, it could be anyone. It could be someone from Greensboro. It could be Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, but in that artist, typically, what I try to do is identify someone who either uses the technique that we're going to be exploring, or they may use the same media. So or the subject matter. That was it. Like one time we did nature birds, and I showed them James J. Audubon. So that is, and today we're doing mobiles. So Alexander Calder, of course, is who they'll meet once the students get here. And they ask, they'll say, who are we going to, and I do a newsletter also, and I say, whom did we meet, is what I say. And then I give a little bit of a background and summary and share some work with them and a picture of the artists themselves.
So they're not only doing art, they're also learning art history and about different artists.
Right, and then they can either explore that technique or try to emulate the way that they have created their particular piece of work. And I try to incorporate everything, like 3D stuff. Some kids don't like to draw, and that's good. I mean, I believe anyone can draw, but if they don't like it, then I always try. We did clay one time and talked about an artist, 87-year-old artist called Lisa Larson, who I just love her playful animal images. I mean, it just, and then usually during the course of the class, they like me to read a book, which is really funny, and they'll ask for that. So while they're working, sometimes I miss their artwork, but while I'm reading, but I'm going to read short books from now on because I don't like missing.
So do you read a book about that artist?
Sometimes I try. It may be something about I try to, it may be about color or something like that. Like today we're doing mobiles and they incorporate a bat. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking of reading Stella Luna, but that's kind of a long one. But if I read it quickly, maybe, which is about a story about that. So,
right.
The idea came about because there's the blue moon on Halloween night. These kids are really into Halloween too, like crazy into Halloween. And I was like, okay, I really didn't want to do too much of a theme stuff. but so I was going to talk about the moon with them and the texture of the moon. So I did a moon and clearly stars.
So
and
yeah, you
then,
have different texture.
and that,
Okay.
right.
But,
And I just mixed yellow paint with flour and slopped it on there. So and I've done this before with the preschoolers. They really like it. And then I did a little bat at the bottom. The interesting thing with this group of kids, with the preschoolers, when they're all the 4-year-olds, they all did the same thing, and they were excited about this. I promise you, some of these kids are going to show up and they're going to say, "I want to make a rainbow," and which is perfectly fine because to me there's no rules. I mean,
Right.
just create, have fun, and I just make sure that I've got stuff available for them if they decide. And this group will not all do this. If they were all 4-year-olds, they would.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but this group won't. So
That's
so
great.
anyway, so I always have my little. Here's one idea, and then they look, and I can see like the gears turn. They look at the supplies on the table, and then they come up with something.
They come with something.
Yeah.
And with this artist that you're incorporating, do you have samples of his art?
Well, what I do is just print pictures out. So
Okay.
I don't have a holder in here, but
No,
I do.
right.
Oh yes, but yeah, I do always show them pictures. And one of the things when I was a kid is you learned a lot about artists, and you never like, "Oh, I wonder what they look like." So I would search to try to show them. And this, and here's a picture of the artist at work or something like that. So yeah, I could see Dan's got my little. I have these little sleeves. Yeah.
You're all of that.
Be really careful because
Yes.
usually my examples are hot off the press, if you know what I mean. Like usually pretty wet, but
Yeah.
so I just show them, and I try to show them relatively, like, look at how giant, his
wow,
work
yeah,
is
just
huge.
feel,
Yeah, his work is huge, and I talk about mobiles and the kinetic movement of mobiles. I mean, the art changes. It just changes, like every time you look at it. I mean, majority of the people, I mean, these are Storm Out people that'll watch this, but I mean, you all know the wind chimes at the Arboretum.
Right.
I mean,
They're
it's
my
just,
favorite.
it's just the coolest thing. And I
Yeah.
do really like hanging things. We have a lot of hanging things in our house too.
Uh-huh.
And the you turn the air on or the heat on, and they just move around. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then I mean, he also has some tabletop stuff. But and then I try, this is a bad print, but I was just like, and this is what he looks like. Oh, he is a person, sort of, rather than.
Yeah.
And so anyway, whoops. But they are cute. They're really cute even I remember last year, the crew that we had up until March when we stopped. But I mean, if I would get on a roll, here's what we're gonna do, because they're so eager. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And then one of them would stop and say, "Wait, we didn't meet the artist." So I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so."
Oh, so you have to bring that
Yeah.
out so they can see the artist and all.
And then I
Good,
even
and you have
and then I
pictures
have
of the
pictures.
moon
Yeah,
and what that
so
looks
that-
like. So
I mean.
but this,
Once again, these kids will say, "Okay, the moon isn't located 93 miles." They'll just they'll spew data that, like, whoa,
That's
okay,
good.
yeah, they're so
Yeah.
they're brilliant.
yeah. Well, if someone were to want to get involved in any of your art classes, how do they find out?
Well, I guess just contact me. I mean, I don't want to. This was a big commitment to be here on Wednesdays. It's really, really fun, but it's sort of a hobby of mine.
Uh-huh.
So it's not really something that I've been, like, I'm advertising it and, trying to put out there. I mean, I'm always willing to talk to people, and anyone who wants to make art. I mean, it makes me really excited when I think about, the
I can
years.
see you come to life when you talk
Yeah.
about art. Yeah.
And I actually, unfortunately, there was another group of families that had reached out to me in Lindley Park,
Uh-huh.
and I just couldn't do both, and
Yeah.
and I also was a little bit concerned with the COVID. I didn't think it was fair to both groups to be sharing, because essentially this was a pod that if I had been spending time, even masked or whatever, with another crew of kids, it sort of brings them together. So I just was like, okay, just one group.
Right.
And so they keep me hopping. So it's really good. And I have this amazing assistant that I did not have when I was teaching at the preschool. And that's my husband, Dan, who is just like, he is.
Hey Dan.
I mean,
whatever.
he is. Here comes
And here
my,
comes the
some of the-
kids.
He is my glue man, my paint
Wow.
man, I mean, just amazing.
So Dan
okay.
is the assistant that gets everybody ready, huh?
Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy, for sharing your special talents with Stormount Stories.